Hello everyone. My name is Jacqueline Kilabogele Molefe from BTJ Properties. I'm a sales assistant here, and in today's episode we'll be talking about the things to consider when renting your property or when renting as a tenant. It applies to both the tenant and the landlord, and in between we can involve the listing agents, which are us BTJ Properties. So as the landlord, you can't always tell a person's character from the very start. So you would need to observe the person for a month or two whilst they are occupying your house. So in that case, if property agents or the middlemen come into the arrangement, there has to be a formal contractual lease which binds both the landlord and the tenant, right? So in that way, as property agents, we actually do the tenant screening, but it's not actually enough to say that this person is 100% perfect for occupying a house. But from the first month to the second month, you have to have a tenant who's compliant, who complies to the lease that they signed, right? As I mentioned, we do tenant screening, right? So from the very go, the tenant has to approach us, they have to come to our offices, and then there's this document which actually requires you to fill in the information, your personal information, your name, your numbers, where you're from, if you're from Botswana or if you're from somewhere else, and also the bank details. In our screening process, we have to make sure that we ask you openly why you moved from the previous place that you occupied, so that we can tell if you have had a clean eviction record. So another quality that landlords can look forward to from their tenants is communication. In this case, from us as property agents, we do KYC forms, and in our KYC forms, we have this part which actually requires you as a tenant to bring up your payslip for the previous 3 months, so that we can see if you can pay on time. And then it's actually a different case for self-managing landlords. I don't know if that's the right term to use it, but for them, they actually don't go to that extent. If you can pay for the first month, that's it, and then for the other months, you can just continue. So in case you cannot produce a payslip and you are not formally employed or you're self-employed, you can make it a point that you communicate with your landlord so that you can actually reach an agreement to when exactly you're supposed to have paid the due rental. So as for the tenants, there are some factors that you can look at before finally deciding to pay for the rental or for that particular area that you've chosen to move to, such as the surrounding area. If you're one person who likes to be closer to facilities and services, you have to have a background check of the clinics, hospitals, schools, and other facilities that you would need along the course of your stay. And you have to also inquire about having pets, because you would find out that you stay in a malterrace, right? But the landlord does not allow you to bring your dog in, your cats in, your snake in, because you live with other people, and other people will not be okay with that. So you have to be clear on that case. And then we also have factors such as utility bills. For some properties, the meters for water and for the electricity, they actually separate. And in other cases, it's just 1 meter, and you'd have to know how much you contribute for electricity if other electric appliances such as electric stoves are allowed, because you'd find out that one tenant is using electric stoves and that's just eating up all the electricity in the home. So there are instances whereby the landlord did not separate the electricity. There's actually 1 meter. And in that case, you find that the other person is using an electric stove and others are just using gas stoves. And there has to be an agreement of how much one should put up in terms of contributions, because obviously the one using the electric stove will use more electricity than others. And then we also have other factors like the parking. If you have a car or two, you have to ask or inquire if there's enough space for you to park your cars, if there are carports in the home or not, because We're trying to avoid a case whereby after a few months you start complaining to the landlord that you need a cupboard, you need a shade, and they may not be in agreement with you when it comes to bringing up any structures to protect your car from the sun. In terms of the neighborhood, take time to do a background check on the neighborhood that you're moving into in terms of cleanliness, noise pollution, crime rates. And then lastly, we can look at the renovation. Are you allowed to do any renovations on the property? You have to approach your landlord and ask if you're allowed to do any further renovations on the property. Either you're allowed to change the paint of the house, install air cons, or even misplace or change the doors. You may prefer sliding doors instead of just the common doors that we usually use. So you have to approach the landlord on everything that you do on their property.